G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Trewin. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Lesley van Tuil from Brew Lab based here in beautiful Hobart, Australia. Thanks for your time today, Lesley.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Finally got you on the podcast. It's been some months I've been chasing.
Yeah, you finally got me.
Let's start with how we know each other. So I'm building a house at the moment. My first builder went under, so I've had to rent near my daughter's mother, my ex, and you're not just my local brew pub, but also my favorite local, because I'm actually situated between two brew pubs. Not a huge fan of the other one, but I've certainly come to know your business very well over the last couple of years since being in the area. And to be honest, as I've said to you before, and I said to Russell years ago when I met him, I didn't think your location was going to work, but you guys have obviously proven me wrong yet again. So I think you remember us meeting before I actually stumbled upon your brew pub.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, what a great intro. Thank you. I think that we actually met, must be 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more, down at another brewery here in Hobart at one of the Grow a Small Business monthly catch-ups. I remember there being a guest speaker, the coach of the Jack Jumpers basketball team here, who was doing a presentation on having the right people on your team. And then shortly after, I think I signed up to do the 16-week program with you.
Yeah, that's right. You've just finished that recently, over 16 weeks. And we've just split that in two, actually. So the first 6 weeks is on the strategy piece, which is the 10-year financial model, which, as you know, is a big piece of work that we've just completed. And the last 10 weeks is all on people, so the people program. Do you want to maybe give a couple of any points on how you found the program after doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I gained so much out of the program, actually, and I think the biggest thing for me would be the power of delegation. I feel like I have the tools now that I can switch my mindset to sort of more of a high value work more often. And that to me was a huge focus on marketing, what that means for my business. I always knew sort of what delegation was, but the course has really helped me understand the fundamentals of it and how to delegate with intention.
And a point I make in the courses that are included in the program, and I've mentioned you a few times and a few other business owners have been through the program. The other great thing about delegation is not just unlocking more of your time as the manager and the owner to work on higher value stuff, but it also means A players get more engaging and challenging work, and they want that. And I think you've found that particularly with your venue manager as well. They've taken it on with earnest.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Any sort of tips and tricks that I've picked up in the 16-week program, I can pass that through to my A players, and that's just so valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And maybe we'll just quickly touch on the 10-year financial model. There was a couple of eye-opening things we've discovered in there that that may help shape and change the strategy of the business.
Yes. Yeah. I think the 10-year financial model's probably been the biggest piece of work in the course, for sure. Maybe something that I've struggled with the most, being more of a people person rather than a numbers focused high I. But we definitely have identified a few, standouts in terms of this being site one for us, but the opportunity to look at further opening a second site or third site and what that means for us.
Yeah, it's been really interesting pulling the numbers together for site two, based on what you opened with, and now you've got, as we'll go through in a minute, a bit over 2 years since you've opened, so you've got all that experience, all that data. So that putting the numbers down is going to give you the confidence, you and the shareholders, you and Dave work in the business, as we'll talk about in a minute, and you've also got two massive shareholders, but may give you the confidence then to go, okay, well, let's get a second site, and you start to get economies of scale plus a bigger casual pool, which makes resourcing much easier and smoother, so you don't have to jump on the into the shifts as currently as you have to.
That's right. And I think that the powers in the data, right, the powers in the numbers, and that financial model has just been a real eye opener.
Yeah, I've started coining recently. We believe strategic planning, especially for small business, should start with the numbers because if the numbers don't stack
Mm.
up, why even fucking do it?
Yeah, we would have nothing.
That's
Yeah.
right. You just have an idea and I think it'll work. Well, what are the numbers say?
Yeah. Let's look at it. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, enough about the program. Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does, and how it makes money.
Well, I have a business called Brew Lab, and it is a microbrewery slash craft beer cafe, is probably the best way to explain it, in an industrial state here in Tasmania, focusing on Tasmanian beer, food, all other products really, actually wine, cider. We have a small microbrewery here on site where we produce our own beer for the cafe. We also do some production for other people to brew their own beers using our equipment. We have a huge focus here for community. That's sort of really our driving force out here. That and running regular events, things like comedy nights, trivia nights, a few other things in the work at the moment that we're going to launch soon, which is exciting. We have 2 private functions and event spaces. They get used quite regularly, actually. Birthday parties, corporate events, a whole mixed bag of things, really. We're sort of situated between Prince of Wales Bay, this beautiful underutilized bay, and then we have views of Cunani, our mountain, behind us here as well.
And for the audience, so it's just out in the northern suburbs of Hobart, but you're also cut off by the Brooker Highway, which is a very busy highway if you're going up to Launceston. And while I'd say you're a semi-industrial area because there is some residential nearby. But as I said to Russell 3 or 4 years ago when I ran into him at Hobart Brewing Company and said, I don't think the business model is going to work. I'd obviously had a few years myself at that point. Be that frank, but that's me. But yeah, it's obviously worked, and I think a big focus on community and marketing, but also the great vibe. Even before we started doing the program, because I had been in there quite a few times. I really did notice this level of service and just how happy the team were, and that makes a big difference in the medium to long term, I think. So, well done, to Dave and the team.
Thank you so much. We often get from people coming out to visit us like, why the fuck would you open up something out here? Or like, I never knew this place existed. Why here? And it is a really sort of unique spot for a modern looking craft beer cafe in, like you said, a semi-industrial estate. And I think that is what makes us really special. That, and like you said, the hospitality from our staff.
Yep. Now, because the outdoor hoops I go shooting in every second day probably is just past the brew lab, I do pop all the way back sometimes, as you well know, and Lucy and Tal. And I noticed on the weekend, I think I popped in. I thought this is really clever, just as a venue layout. You had an engagement party upstairs. Might have been Friday. I can't remember. No, Saturday, I think. But you've got that separate door to allow people upstairs through that, so you don't have to shut the venue off and people aren't interrupting the normal. I thought that's really clever.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's good. And it gives people who have hired the function event space, like I think a sense of privacy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how did you start out?
I'm a chef by trade. So I feel like I've come a long way in the past 2 years from managing kitchens to now managing a small business. Hospitality, food, booze, definitely my passion, particularly here in Tasmania. I completed a diploma in small business management when I was 19. I knew I always wanted to have my own business here in Tassie, and it was always hospitality driven. It's always been people, it's always been food, it's always been booze.
It's a very hard sector. Ollie and Dan, friends of mine who own Dana Eating House, who probably eating at in the middle of Hobart there. Anyway, I used to mentor Ollie for years before we moved to Portugal, and he been through a couple of business ideas and finally settled on this one. And over a beer, he told me they'd just signed the lease for Dana. And I said to Ollie, there's a reason why you didn't fucking tell me about this idea before you signed the lease, Ollie, because I'd tell you it's a bad idea because it's really hard to make money in food and beverage. But obviously you guys and Dan and Ollie have done quite well if you've got a strong management and a great team, I believe, and a good offering.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not easy. It doesn't feel easy. I feel like the profit margins are sort of getting smaller in the economy at the moment. And I feel like it is a bit of a rat race. We do work really hard, but the the feeling of success feels good. Yeah.
What year did you start Brew Lab? Actually, let's go back. How did the idea come up for Brew Lab?
So the motivation for us came up with a sort of linked passion of Tasmanian craft beer, really. We met, Dave and I, my partner and I, met our two now business partners, just a classic Tassie story. We were at the pub, met these two guys who were also at the pub, kicked it off, talking about how much we love pubs, and came up with this sort of this idea of doing something out here in the northern suburbs, particularly where something like this had never existed before. That's sort of how the motivation and the idea kind of sparked.
And for the site selection, I mean, it's a pretty new building. It looks fantastic. Like, how did you guys find the site?
It was up for lease, couple of years before Dave and I met our two business partners. They said to us after meeting at the pub, why don't you come out here and check out this site? And we came out there, and originally, to be honest, we thought, something like that in Derwent Park, sounds like a risk, probably much like what you said, sounds like a risk. And then we came out and we saw the site and saw the views and did some research, understood the people of the area and the community, and we thought there's a recipe here for success. I guess we just fell in love with it.
Well, so the building's pretty much brand new. Was it used for something else before you guys moved in?
Before we moved in, it had one sort of freestanding shed on it that was used for, I think it was bus repairs or something like that. We then purpose-built this building for Brew Lab. Took quite a while to come up with the design, the functionality of it, from where to put the sink to where to put the light fittings. It was quite a big process. But we wanted to design something that can be, I guess, multifunctional.
That's great. So what year did the business formally start? And then we might go back to when the site build started.
Yeah, we formally started in April 2022. So we're moving on to 2.5 years of trade now. I was 27 years old at that point.
Go back to when you first found the site. Was that a couple of years or a year earlier?
That would have been a year before that. So it was sort of mid-2021.
Holy shit, that's a fast build time.
Which was just around COVID. It was just at the end, or was it the start of COVID, the first round?
Yeah.
Which did make construction a little hard. Yeah,
that's
a little challenging.
Timeline to get open in about a year. That's phenomenal.
Maybe it was longer than that.
Got to say also, it's pretty brave to be opening in April 2022. So pretty much bang on 2 years after COVID. We were the economy and, everyone was still coming out of our houses and our shells, I guess, at that point. That was very brave.
Yeah. And it was, COVID was definitely something that slowed down construction and really helped us, I guess, kick into gear about our business plan, because it all still felt like a bit of a risk. So we really had to make sure that we were really firm with our plans, and that was a big motivator, I suppose. How do we get people out of their houses? How do we get this sense of community back in again when we lost that connection?
Yep. And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of business? Now been operating a bit over 2 years, almost 2.5.
Yeah, I feel like 2 years, we're just sort of starting to understand what our data's doing and how we're going. And I'm pretty pleased to report we saw a 5.15% increase in trading income from FY23 to FY24, which, you look at the numbers and you sort of say that we're on the right track, right? There's magic here somewhere.
Well, yeah, especially in the context of the cost of living crisis, which has really bitten businesses in the last nearly a year, I'd say. Consumer spending's been going down. Here in Australia, we've been in a per capita recession now for a year and a half, from what I've read. So people are spending less. And for you guys to grow over 5%, because FY23 was a full financial year, so over 5% in the next financial year, that is phenomenal given the backdrop.
That's right. Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. Thanks.
What about number of full-time equivalent team members? I assume it was you and Dave started full-time on the project, and then how big
Yeah.
team?
Yeah, it was just Dave and I. We was just us two getting it started, getting it built from the ground up. Now we have about 6.5 FTE, so that, grew in our 2 years so far of trade.
That's great. So that includes any of the managers in the business and casuals as well. That's terrific.
Yeah.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
I feel like it was certainly after our first year of trade. I think maybe the first 12 months is a bit of a blur, to be honest. Most of it was just Dave and I sort of trying to figure it all out. It's our first go at business ownership. We have plenty of management skills, but ownership it's just a different level, isn't it? Different level of complexity. We were just sort of learning a lot as we go and trying to find the right events and offerings and who our patrons were as well. But I think the moment that we noticed that we succeeded was when we saw customers. We started noticing when our guests would come in, they would bump into people that they know, like their friends or family, and that created this huge moment of success. It sort of brought tears to our eyes. Particularly, I remember one night after one of those seriously long shifts, probably after a few beers, knowing that we had created this safe community space where people actually loved to come in, and they were seeing their friends and family and meeting here in an industrial site that bet the odds of success.
What does success look like to you?
I measure success in the happiness of my team, my shareholders, my customers as well. I think success looks like a vibrant space with the right music, the right lighting, and people connecting. Of course, there has to be like an element of, financial success and growth within the business, or this wouldn't last for much longer. But the fundamentals of success for me is that atmosphere.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Through the transformation course I've been doing, I think my answer for that would be email marketing. I've learned a buttload about, what that means for a small business. I signed up with ConvertKit. It's, I started maybe at the end of May. So, a few months back now, we had 1,450 on our mailing list. Now I'm up to 1,700. The feedback's been really positive. We're seeing more bookings come through. People are talking about, those marketing efforts sort of getting noticed.
Yeah, for the audience, for context, I do rant about this occasionally, as you're about to hear again, Lesley. The money's in the list. The American Direct Marketing Association publishes numbers each year to say what the best ROI is per channel, as you read in the course. Email marketing, for every $1 you put into it, you get $44 back. Next best is SEO at 22, and then after that's paid ads at 20. And that's probably changing now because paid ads are getting more expensive every month. But a lot of business owners, as you were, are reluctant to email their list too often. I think I asked you, I said, how big's the list? And how often do you email them? And you stared blankly into the camera. And then I reframed the question, said, how many emails did you open 2 years ago? And you said 3. And now you're pretty much weekly, and you're seeing
yes,
great open rate. There's a very low unsubscribe, which a lot of people are worried about. Oh, people jump off my list. Well, they will, some will, and they're not your target customer, so that's fine.
That's right. Yeah, I remember saying that to you at the start as well, being like, oh my God, I've had like 20 unsubscribers. And I, learnt quite quickly that they're not the right people for me anyway. I think our open rate at the moment is 36%, which is great. So
that's great. Yeah, anything above 20% is amazing. Well done. And what other marketing advice would you give other similar businesses?
I think just to be organic, be yourself, share your successes with your viewers. I know for myself, our biggest any posts that we send out on social media, or any emails that I send out, anything that's to do with our team, our people, or stories, definitely get the most success.
And you also run a lot of events. You've hosted a few recently, collabs, etc. But I mean, the Comedy Night my first one last month, which was great, packed and hilarious. I think my girlfriend was the loudest laugher in the room. Haven't did the trivia yet, but I'm there some Tuesdays, and that starts filling up pretty quick. And doing those collabs as well, I think has been a great marketing move for you guys.
Collaboration means a lot to us because we really want to support other Tasmanian small business owners, and the more things that we can do together really feeds into our value as a business.
Yeah, great. I was there when Old Kempton Distillery had that tasting one of the 2 nights. I thought that was a great idea, and obviously I put you in touch with S from Jack and Cello as well. Doing a dog event there, which I think would be Douglas and I will be the first one. My chocolate Labrador and I will be the first ones there.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And use Net Promoter Scores. So that's something the program put you onto. That when after a customer's they book a table, they eat. Once they've left, that exit email says thanks for staying, etc. Here's links to us. Please leave a review, but also ask them to fill out a handful of questions. And the first question in that is the Net Promoter Score. We'll link through it in the show notes for people to understand. It's not a percentage, but what your Net Promoter Score is?
Yeah, I think having a score of 100 at the moment seems pretty unreal, right? We've only been using it for about 6 weeks now since I've linked it through to that thank you email. We're sitting at about 16 responses at the moment, and to have such a positive result that I can then share with my staff, it's amazing.
And that survey also, because the last question is any other feedback, or one of the questions is one thing we should change, one thing we shouldn't, any other feedback. And it's a great mine for you to find positive feedback and also some negative feedback. I think you told me that you found that you were able to address pretty quickly and get the customer back.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. No, it's been so good. And don't get me wrong, not always is the feedback, I don't know, worth actioning. For example, I remember we got one recently that said that someone said that they hate that our toilets we chose the color black for our bathrooms.
Right.
There's not necessarily things that we're able to action, but the ones that we can, I think it's been a really helpful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And for the audience, a positive 15 score is about the world average in the Net Promoter. So again, it's not a percentage. Around 50 is great, and 70 or above is exceptional, really hard to get to. So well done. It may come down a little bit with a bit more data, but that is a great start on that metric.
Thank you.
How did you fund the business?
Each owner actually invested in starting up the business with our own personal funds equally.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
I would. Yeah, I would. It's definitely where my experience and passion sits. As a result, I think it aligns with my personal values really well. And again, being such a high I people person, I couldn't imagine in any other industry that I could do. Yeah.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
I think it's people. People are making the wrong hiring moves. Is the most stressful point for me. But I'm sure you probably get that same answer a lot on this cast. I'm sure that's a trend.
Well, it's a balance between team or your people fucking up recruitment or not managing and leading your team well, because a lot of business owners and managers just don't do the training to be great. Hence why we put the program together. And then often the other times it's cash flows that is the main stress, or big incident with a business partner falling out or something like that. But yeah, people certainly up there.
Yeah, people for me, I think, and through doing the course now, I can identify that I fell in the trap really quickly with hiring people fast, particularly being in such a transient industry, because it was a timing thing, and then it just ended up costing me kind of sleepless nights, having pretty nasty confrontation, and it just takes the wind out of my sails. Yeah.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Marketing and brand awareness, for sure. And I think the past 6 to 12 months, I've really put in a lot of hard yards with marketing. Learning from others in the industry as well has been really important. And it's sort of something I'd never done before in my career, being in kitchens and managing people, was that marketing never really came up as a skill that you had to have in your toolkit. So it's I've put the most work into my marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun and it's one of the biggest growth levers and profit levers in the business. The more marketing you can do, particularly smaller businesses as they're growing, the owners are still often owning that corner of the business. So it's great. You unlock some more time, not just from delegation, but being focused, saying no to things, and in the mornings, just locking yourself away to push marketing forward has been great.
Yeah, absolutely. And a result, again, like I said before, from doing the course is that delegation really helped open up that time for me.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
I think changing systems and strategies from a financial perspective has been the least fun for me. I feel like we often have to relook at our pricing policies, procedures, structures, just to keep up with this changing growth. And I reckon, like, ultimately it's a really good thing, but it's probably just not my strong suit.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I love seeing my personal journey grow alongside the business. I'm learning things and achieving things that I thought that I would never have had the skills to do. And it's really satisfying, I think, to believe in yourself and know that you can actually do it. Like pre-opening this business, I don't think I could tell you the last time I actually read a book from start to finish. But now I'm growing a small business, like I can actually finish a book that I started, which is pretty cool.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I think disassociating myself from the business is a really big one. I learned I needed to keep my support networks really strong, like friends and family, going to the gym, taking care of myself, especially in the first year. Like I'm sure so many other people say as well on your cast that, you put in so many hours in your first year into developing the business. And I really started to sort of understand what people meant by you're going to burn out soon. So trying to keep that balance has been a really important mindset shift for me, particularly after our first year of trade.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
I reckon delegation. I think, I have learnt to shift my thinking from like, yep, I'll do it. No worries. I can do that to, okay, whoa. Who can I delegate this to? Because it's just such an easy trap to fall into, thinking that you can it's easier if you do it all. But I'm learning to get better at it.
Do you find it difficult to define and execute a clear strategy for your small business? Does your team support your strategy? You know you are ready to create the right environment to boost your team's performance. Our 90-day business transformation program is designed for small business owners like you, with 5 to 30 team members who are ready for growth. Every day you'll receive a short email with a handful of growth actions. You'll invest 30 minutes each week in your one-on-one coaching session, tackling your specific growth challenges with one of our experienced growth guides, business owners themselves. Boost your confidence, your team's performance, and grow your small business with ease with our business transformation program at growsmallbusiness.com. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
I'm happy to say, as you've mentioned before as well, that we have some seriously good A players on our team. We've achieved some great things by having the right people, and that's been essential to our growth. Some mistakes I've certainly made that people would resonate with, again, I'm sure, is like hiring someone too quickly to fill a position that when they weren't the right fit. If I could turn back the clock on some of the hires I've made, I would have stopped to take the time to ask the right questions.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Culture is such a strong pillar in our business strategy. I'll always take the time in to check in with my team members for about 30 minutes, each team member each week, to get to know them personally. I think that's really helped create strong banter, sharing wins with each other, working on projects, just trying to set time aside for that personal sort of connection each week's been really important. I can always tell, and I know, I can always tell when you walk into another bar or restaurant when the culture's off. I'm sure you probably can too, and it just drives me nuts.
It shits me to tears. I notice it. I really notice it, and it's just the owner or the managers aren't doing their fucking job. They haven't, one, recruited the right people, two, trained them, supported them, given them feedback, or built a good culture. I absolutely notice it as well.
Yeah, it's such an ick. And I feel like I've got a pretty good radar for that thing. So it's, growing that sustainable kick-ass culture for me is taking the time, sit with your key team members, talk to them, get to know them personally, and focus on their tasks with them, be that support that they need. I think that creates that kick-ass culture that other businesses, need to have, don't
Yeah.
have.
The other thing it does, but by having such a strong culture, if you've got A players, they're going to stick around longer if you look after them. As you know, as I've written about in the Kick-Ass Manager course, which is part of the 16-week program, that there are three powers in the workplace. There's role power. I'm your boss. I can fire you, do as I say. There's technical power. I know more about this topic than you do, so I get an extra vote. But the most impactful one is the relationship power. So the only way to build a strong professional relationship with your team members is to sit down one-on-one with them on a regular basis, weekly, and talk about things, firstly, that they want to talk about. And secondly, you have the opportunity to give feedback and coaching and pull out their job description and talk about things. And the last 10 minutes, as you know, is their development, which again, very important and often ranked higher above pay is the reason why people choose to work where they do if they're feeling developed by their manager. So yeah, it's huge.
And I really enjoy that structure, the 10, 10, 10, 10 for them, 10 for me, 10 for the business. But it always blows out of proportion. And I'm still trying to be strict with the 10, 10, 10 rule for sure.
Yeah. Tell our audience how you've handled balance. So you've mentioned the first year was a bit out of whack, but you feel you've got it back in shape now?
Yeah, I think so. I think it just takes discipline. I still don't, maybe I'm not convinced that I've handled balance, but handling it with discipline for sure. I use my calendar a lot. It's probably my life hack is just to block out time for myself in my calendar. That way I can just keep myself accountable.
Yep.
And using that time for myself. Yeah.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself? You mentioned early on when you first started, there wasn't that much around reading business books, etc., but you've ramped up in the last year.
Definitely. And thanks to you, kudos. The biggest one I would say of course, is completing the 16-week course. But outside of that, I've probably completed a few sort of smaller courses in my career in managing people, but it's only really been within the last sort of 12 months. With the 16-week course, yeah, maybe an additional 10 weeks on top of that for professional development.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you know, that's one of the habits we really drive into people who go through the program is to build the habit of PD or professional development, even just half an hour a day, or bunch it up to 2 hours a week, 2.5 hours a week when you're exercising or driving around town. But do you feel you've now built that habit?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I think, maybe that took me 2 to 3 months, maybe 3 months, to sort of really build that habit. But now it's here. It just feels normal. Taking the dog for a walk, you put your earpods in and listen to a cast, little things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. It changes the way you think, gives you tips and ideas, and not just motivational, but there's a lot of practical stuff from books and podcasts, and use your time while you're driving around or walking the dog. Like
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Yes, Troy, I would say you are my mentor. You are my coach. You are my mentor. Aside from you, I haven't had any other mentors or coaches. Definitely people I look up to, people I aspire to in the industry here in Tassie for sure. But having a mentor, I think, has added a huge value for my professional growth and personal growth as well. Like what I mentioned before, blocking time out in my calendar, little tricks and hacks like that. It's professional growth, but it's also personal growth too. I feel like it's just a support system that every small business owner should have at some point in their journey.
Yeah, obviously I agree. Having a mentor, the right mentor or coach, or one of the values, not just keeping you to account, holding you accountable, but it also challenges your thinking, especially if it's a mentor, let's say business person that's retired, that's already walked down the road that you are going down at the moment, they can say, yeah, I tried that, fuck that up, don't go that way, or don't think it that way. Yeah, it can save you not just a lot of time and money, but pain as well.
Yes. Yeah. I'd like to say as well, my business partners, I see them in coaches. I see them as coaches in this journey too.
You have a board of directors or advisors?
As a company, we have 4 owners. We're all 4 equals in the business, and myself and Russell, one of my partners, we're directors. We co-directors.
Yeah. How often does the board meet?
The board meets monthly, once a month. Yeah, it's good, and and that's in a more formal sense. But geez, we talk every day. This is, and if it's not every day, it's every second day.
All right, Lesley, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I think constantly being flexible to change, watching patterns in the industry. We see one week being completely different to the next, and I find that to be quite hard to keep up with, making short, sharp changes, decisions all the time with changing weeks can be really hard.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Good to Great by Jim Collins was a really big one for me. Helps me understand that any business starting can actually be a big, powerful business.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite books as well. It's obviously one of there's probably nearly 10 books through the whole 16 weeks in the program, through the various courses that we recommend you listen to half an hour a day to get through on 1.5 speed. As you know, I'm all about productivity. But yeah, Good to Great is amazing. And that's really where it's one of my favorite quotes comes from, which is people aren't your greatest asset. The right people are. Get the right people on the bus, wrong people off, and the right people in the right seats. And it just, because it all comes down to the people. So it's not a brilliant strategy, charismatic leader, a great product. It is, you start with the people first and then you work out where you drive the bus. Any great podcasts, online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I use the Manager Tools app quite a bit to help with any sort of small piece of advice or more information that I sort of need. I don't know if you have mentioned this in any other cast before, but the Manager Tools has, a lot of free sort of, that sounds like something you should say. You should say that bit, not me.
That's right. No, it is great. I mean, Mark's a friend of mine, and met Mark and Mike years ago. Mark's out here when he's got their conference in Melbourne or Sydney. He often pops down to Tassie to play golf with us. But the podcast is just cracked 19 years old. It's an amazing resource. But as I've said to Mark before, not just to put his putting game off, but it's just hidden behind a shitty brand and a shitty website. And it's really hard to navigate. There's so much gold in their advice and materials. So the app does help a little bit on the phone to find a good cast. And these are manager casts. So if you've got a people issue or something you need help with on the team front, it's a great place to go to and search and find some of their advice of nearly 20 years.
Yes, yeah. I really enjoy as well that they're, some of the key gold that you need out of it. The cast can only be sometimes 20 minutes long, 15 minutes long. It's not like you really have to give hours and hours to it.
Yeah. And they're very well prepared. Like, they spend a lot of time preparing those before. It's not just them rambling on about crap. They've got specific points to make and advice. They actually give advice on what you should do, and sometimes it's backed by data as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I reckon that's been one of my most successful learning tools in my professional development, for sure.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
I think just having the right support systems for you. I don't know, it sounds like a cop-out, and that could probably look so different to each person, but I think it's the support that you need to succeed.
Finally, my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on starting out almost?
I would tell myself not to focus on the small things, that it'll all fall into place. What I used to worry about so much and what I thought was really important back then, looking back, is hilarious, because none of that fucking matters.
Thanks so much for your time today, Lesley. I've really enjoyed our chat. Obviously, we could talk for hours and hours, but the rest of that time is going to have to be over a beer. Congratulations to you and Dave and your 2 shareholders that don't work in the business. The growth over the last 2.5 years, that's phenomenal in this cost of living crisis, to get the top line up 5%, FY24 over 23. And obviously I'm a customer, and I really enjoy the time there and the vibe and the great things that you and Lucy and Tal and the team are doing.
Thank you so much, Troy. So great to talk to you, and I'll see you for a beer soon.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.